Hey guys, it's Michaela, also known as Misfit Mick, and I have a lot of information coming your way. This is basically everything that I did, the first steps that I took to have a successful recovery journey. In the first part of this video, we are going to talk about removing the scale because you are not your body. We are going to be talking about identity and identifying with your BED, feeling like that's the only thing that you bring to the table. Challenging black and white thinking or the all or nothing mindset, and the difference between reflection and rumination, and how reflection can help you collect so much data because recovery is just an experiment. So before we get into it, there is a lot of information in this video. This is just part one, so if you want part two, let me know in the comments. Okay, now let's get into it. So one of the first things that I did on my recovery journey was removing the scale. Remove the fucking scale, and it doesn't have to be anything where you have to get rid of it, but you have to put it in a spot that is so inconvenient for you to grab that it's not even worth it during those times. And I say this because every time I weighed myself religiously, and so it started to become a habit where it's like every time I saw a scale, I wanted to know what my body size was. Especially, I wanted to know how much I weighed, especially after a binge, after I overate. And I wasn't gathering that information to help me at all. I was gathering that information to prove the belief that I had about myself was correct, that I was just too far gone, that I was just this monster, that, I had no self-control. And so it was just gathering information to shame myself. And it feels so uncomfortable walking around in a body where it's like, oh my God, I don't know what I weigh right now. But really having an honest conversation with yourself and understanding that the scale has too much of an emotional impact right now, and you do not know how to regulate or cope with any negative feelings, most likely if you're stuck in the binging cycle, because all you want to do is turn to food. That's the only way that you've shown yourself that you can feel okay. So removing the scale is essentially just creating a safer environment for you in order to empower your recovery journey rather than keep you stuck in the cycle that you're currently in. So bridging into another topic, one of the reasons that I had to get rid of the scale is because it tremendously impacted how I identified with myself. So basically what would happen, I'd jump on the scale, I'd see a number that I didn't like, and immediately I was that number on the scale, and that's the only thing I thought about all day. So one of the biggest things that you'll learn in recovery is that you're building awareness. And when you really start focusing on being intentional in building awareness and just kind of like challenging your thoughts and just metacognition, being aware of how you're thinking, your eyes will open into, holy shit, this is the narrative that I've been telling myself, and I've just been flowing with the thoughts. But anyway, identity. When I recognized how much I identified not only with weight, but my ED in general, I was constantly making jokes about myself that I was like the human garbage disposal, that I was kind of just good for nothing besides eating. Like that was something that I was really good at. And everybody kind of knew me as that as well, where I was just the girl who could eat a lot of food. So I kept myself in a box a lot because I was always telling myself, I cannot recover, I'll never be able to stop binging. And this is going back to just in human nature. If you have a belief, and these were my beliefs, you'll want to find all the evidence to support that. So this is why we're also getting rid of the scale, but also just kind of being aware of, okay, what is the story that we're telling ourselves, And then you have to kind of think about it too in a sense of like, if you are constantly telling yourself that you will never recover, and yet you expect yourself to give it your all, it's like, you truly will never allow yourself to essentially give yourself permission to fail, because on the back end, you're already telling yourself like, you're never going to be able to do this. Like you're trying to put your all in it, but you've already solidified that this is just not possible for you. So the next topic is black and white thinking. And my take on black and white thinking is like, truly when you think about it, it is just trying to protect you. Like in those moments where you feel like you're doing really, really well, you're 100% like on everything. It's like you're giving yourself all this motivation and all this kudos, and it's like there's no letdown, right? And then when you find yourself overeating or binging, it's like you kind of hold on to this idea that you are a failure and that this is just what life is. Because when you think about it, it's like, well, if there was hope, it would hurt more to hold on to that hope and then fail rather than just, oh, this is just the way it is. You have taught yourself to think like this, which means that you can teach yourself to not think like this, right? all through neuroplasticity and things like that. So this belief in general is keeping you, the black and white thinking is keeping you stuck in the cycle because you're not allowing yourself any room for error. And error in recovery is where you grow the most. So like, for example, one of the black and white thinking ideas that I struggled with a lot is if I overate, right? It was immediately like I ruined everything. I could not, backtrack on anything. There was no progress made. I had already fucked up the day. I had to go all in because, quite honestly, I gave myself permission, right? Like that was an excuse to go all in. But in those moments where I really started to grow in recovery I started recognizing I overate, but I also started recognizing, like, how did I even get there? Like, how did the overeating even start? Like, was I being mindful when I was eating? Like, was I emotionally charged when I started eating? Did I get enough sleep? Like, what exactly happened that caused me to overeat? And collecting all of that data, essentially what that is, there is growth in the error. You have to give yourself permission, though, to mess up in order to push forward and learn from that error and turn it into a win. That's what it is. So the number one thing that I want you to take from this is it's building awareness. So when you're dealing with the black and white thinking or the all or nothing mindset, it's challenging those thoughts. First of all, just starting to become aware of your pattern. When does this show up for you? Is this something that is constantly showing up for you? Which just means that you have to be more aware of how you're thinking rather than just going with the flow, right? And then challenging it, when you finally catch a thought where you're like, oh, okay, holy shit, I'm kind of like taking this to where it's all or nothing. You can either challenge that thought or you can challenge it with action. And so I have some ways that I would challenge myself in that, where it's like, okay, say you go through the day, you want to have the perfect diet, you want to get all your steps in, and you want to go to the gym. Well, some days I would not have the perfect diet, I'd overeat or I'd binge or whatever, and I'd still show up to the gym. And that just proved to myself that I deserve to show up for myself even when I didn't hit 100% all day. It's also practicing leaving some things on the plate. Another thing that's very, very common in the binging cycle is when people want to lose weight. When people want to lose weight, because everybody wants to lose weight, especially when you're going through a weight fluctuation and you feel all of that confidence just stripped from you. One of the ways that I practiced getting out of the all or nothing mindset and still chasing my goal was having a calorie range. So it wasn't necessarily like, okay, 1,500 calories, I have to hit this number. It was like, no, anywhere from like 15 to 1,900 calories and I'll be good. Because then it's like, while you're doing this, you also want to give yourself permission to learn your body. You want to get connected with your hunger and your fullness cues. And so if you are feeling, more hungry one day, because people don't just eat the same calorie limit every single day on the dot, right? Like they have fluctuations. So it's like one day you might feel a little bit more hungry. One day you might not feel as hungry. It doesn't happen as commonly when you're in the binging cycle, but, especially if you're a girl on your cycle, I can tell you right now, I get way hungrier when I'm on my period than when I'm just, eating normally. So that's another great way that you can start practicing challenging that all or nothing mindset, is having a range for your calorie deficit. I hope and I know that you gained something out of this. So if you did gain something out of it, I would love to know what it was. And if you want me to talk about anything else, please let me know in the comments. But I appreciate you guys. If you did like this content, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And like I said, if there's anything else that you'd like me to talk about, maybe dive deeper into, or I didn't hit a point, let me know in the comments. I appreciate you. Recovery is possible, but it's not if you quit.